All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. Blaise Pascal. All right, let me think this through out loud, because I don't actually trust myself when I sound too confident about this. There's this question they asked people once: 15 minutes alone in a silent room. No phone, no music, just you. Or a mild electric shock. And a ridiculous number of people picked the shock. Which is funny until you realize I'd probably be one of them. Not because I'm brave, because I'm weak. Weak against my own head. I say I like peace and quiet, but what I really like is background noise that pretends to be peace. A podcast murmuring so I don't have to hear myself. A screen glowing so I don't accidentally think something inconvenient. Silence isn't calm. Silence is suspicious. Silence asks questions I keep dodging, and everyone pretends the problem is boredom. It's just boring to be alone. No, that's a lie we repeat because the truth sounds worse. Boredom would be harmless. What shows up instead is memory. Regret. That thing you said 3 years ago that still makes your stomach tighten. The version of yourself you keep postponing. Silence doesn't arrive. Empty it arrives loaded. And that's when the real panic kicks in. Because if you see yourself clearly, then what? What's the excuse after that? This is where philosophers love to jump in and sound wise. Schopenhauer, for example, with his porcupines. Cold winter. They huddle together, stab each other with their quills, pull away, freeze, repeat. Human intimacy, apparently. And yeah, that part tracks. Get too close to people, and you bleed. Stay too far, and you go numb. So we learn the dance. Be friendly, but not honest. Vulnerable, but only in rehearsed ways. Post feelings online, not in real conversations. We don't want warmth, we want controlled temperature. I do this constantly. I call it having boundaries, but half the time, it's just fear wearing a professional outfit. Modern life is basically one long porcupine strategy. Keep enough distance to avoid getting hurt, but not so much that you have to admit you're lonely. It's efficient, it's sterile, and it quietly makes you worse at being human. Neuroscience backs this up, apparently. Lonely brains start seeing threats everywhere. A neutral look feels like rejection. A short reply feels like a verdict. So you pull back more, which makes you lonelier, which makes you more defensive. Congratulations, you've built a self-sustaining prison and called it self-protection. Schopenhauer would probably shrug and say, that's just how it is. And that's where I start getting annoyed. Because that version of solitude is just hiding. It's retreat. It's licking wounds and pretending that's wisdom. I've done that too, telling myself I'm taking space when I'm really just sulking in isolation, waiting for the world to become less disappointing. Then there's the Stoics. Marcus Aurelius, writing to himself like a guy journaling because therapy wasn't an option yet. He talks about an inner citadel, a fortress inside you that doesn't collapse every time someone disapproves of you. Sounds impressive. Also sounds suspiciously clean. The Stoic pitch is that solitude isn't escape, it's training. You don't go alone to avoid damage. You go alone to become harder to damage. Which I like, until I notice how often people use that idea to cosplay strength while still being emotionally unavailable. I've done that too. Reading about resilience while still snapping at small things. Quoting philosophy while still being rattled by comments from people I don't even respect. Silence, in theory, is where you sharpen yourself. In practice, it's where you realize how dull you actually are. Neuroscientists say the brain lights up in silence. Default mode network. Memory, identity, meaning-making. Fancy terms for your mind finally does the work you keep interrupting, which explains why we avoid it. Because that work is unpaid labor. No dopamine hits. No applause. Just you trying to stitch your life into something that doesn't feel random. We say we're thinking all the time, but most of us are just consuming faster. Information isn't insight. Noise isn't depth. If that were true, scrolling would have made us enlightened by now. And this is where the whole solitude debate gets warped. People treat it like a moral choice. Either you're a selfish hermit or a socially healthy extrovert. As if those are the only two options. What if solitude isn't a stance but a rhythm? You step back, not because you hate people, but because you're tired of meeting them as a deficit. You go alone to stop needing others to stabilize you. Not to become invincible, just less fragile. The real danger isn't solitude. It's confusing loneliness with it. Loneliness is being alone and still begging for attention. Solitude is being alone without negotiating your worth. Most of us can't tell the difference because we've never stayed long enough to find out. 5 minutes of quiet feels unbearable, so we assume it's unhealthy, or tragic, or a sign something's wrong. But what if the discomfort is the point? Here's the part that makes me uneasy. The idea that solitude isn't for self-improvement. It's not for enlightenment. It's not even for peace. It's for love, and not the Instagram kind. The unglamorous version. The kind of care that isn't transactional. That doesn't secretly ask, and what do I get back? You can't give that if you're internally bankrupt. If your inner world is just unresolved hunger and noise, whatever you offer people comes with strings. Or resentment. Or exhaustion. I hate admitting that, because it means some of my kindness was just disguised neediness. The people who actually give something solid to the world thinkers, builders, leaders, whatever, they usually disappear first. Not forever. Just long enough to get themselves together. Their solitude isn't avoidance. It's preparation, which makes the modern fear of being alone look childish. Like refusing to go to the gym because it hurts, then complaining about being weak. And no, I'm not pretending I've mastered this. Half the time, I still grab my phone the moment things get quiet. I still mistake stimulation for meaning. I still flinch when my thoughts get too specific. But I've noticed something uncomfortable. Every moment I want to escape boredom is exactly when something important is about to surface. That itch to distract myself. That's not emptiness. That's pressure. Something trying to form. So maybe the question isn't, do you like being alone? Maybe it's what are you afraid you'd have to admit if you stayed? Because silence doesn't just reveal who you are. It reveals what you've been postponing. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. Now, I want to hear from you. When was the last time you were truly alone? No phone, no distractions, no escaping yourself. Leave a comment about what silence usually shows you, or what you try not to see.